How are you doing? I hope everything's going great for you. Well, I just wanted to report Trump is at it again. He has now asked for a special master in his Department of Justice case. That's the head of the federal court investigation for his stealing of the presidential papers. Most interested, the government is in those that are marked confidential at one of the various levels of confidentiality. Well, he's been found with 300 documents, over 700 pages of various levels of confidential documents hidden in his golf club, which has members who are not scrutinized for security. It's just anybody with money can come in and join this club, and then he locks the stuff up in his closet and stuff, and so there's no security, there's no guard, there's no special access. Anybody who can pick a lock can probably get in there. So the Department of Justice it's a crime to do that. If you, as a regular person, would take any paperwork out of a government office, especially to your home or your social club or anywhere, you'd be fired and you would go to jail. But you can't, Trump thinks he doesn't have to follow the laws of the nation because he thinks of himself more as a king than as a president, and he really doesn't know much about the government. He just makes it up as he goes, and then he surrounds himself with various lawyers, and most of his lawyers are facing jail terms because of their corruption. So he has, in a crazy move, after he was served with a search warrant, and there's an affidavit as to what they were searching for, and they've already found the confidential documents and see some of them. They may still have more, in various places, in the bathrooms and who knows where else in the golf club, but they have lots of documents that they have confiscated from his golf club. But Trump now says he needs a special master because he doesn't trust the Department of Justice. Well, he's the thief, so why in the world is he not trusting the Department of Justice, who is headed by a very capable person? Well, that's because he's crooked, and so this is typical behavior of a crook who's trying not to get caught. And no one ever asks for a special master when the head of the Department of Justice is trying to investigate whether or not a crime has been committed. That is kind of a new thing, and I've never heard of anyone doing this. So this is a TV report on Trump's request for a special master and what this show thinks of his request.
Donald Trump has now filed a belated legal response weeks after the search of Mar-a-Lago, asking the court to appoint a special master to review the allegedly classified documents recovered from his property. Again, to peruse them for executive privilege, which itself is not coherent. Here's the thing. The documents belong to the National Archives, not to Trump. The ex-president likely waited too long as the FBI seized the evidence 2 weeks ago. But even setting the questionable logic aside, the actual 27-page legal filing has been widely criticized as cartoonishly amateurish. Trump's out-of-state lawyers were even told they had to refile the request to represent him because they did it wrong the first time. The judge even had to point them to a sample document instructing them how to file properly. And much of Trump's filing reads like one of his tweets, as if it was dictated by him personally instead of written by a lawyer. It refers to the ex-president as, quote, the clear frontrunner in the 2024 Republican presidential primary and in the 2024 general election. It It contains a threat in writing from the ex-president sent to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Quote,
So he's threatening
President
them.
Trump wants the Attorney General to know he has been hearing from people all over the country about the raid. If there was one word to describe their mood, it is angry. The heat is building up. The pressure is building up. Whatever I can do to take the heat down, to bring the pressure down, just let us know.
It sounds like January 6th
Professor
threat.
Warren Kerr summed it up best, quote, lawyers are giggling at Trump's motion and how poorly it was done. He's right. A legal filing should probably be laughed out of court. It might not be. Right now, the case has been assigned to a very conservative Florida judge named Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump himself, confirmed in the lame duck session. And as many people noted, there's this trick that some sympathetic right-wing judges have pulled with Trump where they don't approve his outlandish legal requests, but what they do is kind of collaborate with him on the procedural foot-dragging and delay tactics. They can just kind of kick the can long enough to give Trump cover, which is, of course, his ultimate goal. Now, we don't know if that's what Judge Cannon will do, although today she sent Trump's lawyer a list of, let's just say, quite pointed questions, demanding more information about what exactly they are requesting. Nancy Gertner is a former U.S. District Court judge in Massachusetts and a senior lecturer at the Harvard Law School, and she joins me now. So, Nancy, you were a district court judge. You would get filings from all kinds of lawyers.
Right.
What's your...
And you rarely giggled. You rarely giggled. That was not the usual response.
Right. I mean, presumably professionals doing this. I mean, what is your top-level characterization of this filing?
Well, I mean, the fact of it is already troubling. Here's a nerdy point. When a lawyer files something, there's a note, there's a sheet that says, what are the related cases? And they did not mention the case pending before Judge Reinhardt, as if it was not related. I mean, usually what happens here is a search warrant is an emergency. The emergency, it goes to the magistrate judge that is on call, that is the emergency judge. You don't pick them, it's the judge who simply is on call. If you have a beef with the magistrate judge, which rarely happens around these kinds of issues, you go to the district judge who is on duty. What we don't know is whether Judge Cannon is the duty judge at all. And in any event, you don't go up until you've asked the same question of the judge on the lower level. So from my understanding, he's never asked Judge Reinhardt for a special master. You didn't. That's where you start. You can't be appealing something that you haven't asked for. Then you put aside the fact that I really am a legal nerd. I mean, I've checked cites in this pleading. I've checked the legal cases that they've cited, and I would also give it a low grade. That apart from the fact that nowhere in this document, by the way, do they refer to former President Trump as former President Trump. So it is a public relations document.
Yeah, the point about Reinhardt, I think, is just worth sort of staying on for a second. I mean, there is a judge. There's a federal district judge who has this case. In fact, he's asked for briefing on some of the questions related to whether the affidavit should be released. He has received arguments on that. So one of the questions that this other judge, Judge Cannon, has asked of the parties who filed this is, like, shouldn't this be in Judge Reinhardt's court? And it does seem like just a blatant attempt to just, like, root around a judge you think is not your person and go try to find one who you think is, like, on your team.
Right. No, I mean, the key issue is that in a search warrant isn't actually not a case yet. It's described on the docket as the miscellaneous business docket. It doesn't become a case until someone is indicted. In one sense, it is fully in the purview of the magistrate judge until he finishes with it. And even if it's an emergency, the first round of the emergency should go to the magistrate judge. Then there's a question of the relationship of the magistrate judge to Judge Cannon. And you can't pick your favorite district court judge to go to. There are rules that determine that. What I don't know is whether she is an emergency judge as well, or whether he has bypassed the emergency judge as well. But I mean, if she's not the emergency judge, if you haven't finished with Judge Reinhardt, then this is like an eviction case that you decided to file in The Hague, right? I like the judges in The Hague, and that's where I'm going to go. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense at all.
That's a very good. That's a very good line. What I guess the other question here is like, if it is, I guess it is just a PR document, but it also seems that, you know, the quality of the lawyering is not particularly high, and he's had trouble finding counsel. When you look at the other lawyers, right? I mean, Michael Cohen pled guilty to, you know, federal crimes, did time in prison. Rudy Giuliani, who replaced Michael Cohen, is currently the target of a criminal inquiry in Georgia for the work he did on behalf of the president. Two of the White House counsels, Don McCann and Pat Cipollone, were, you know, had testified in inquiries into misdeeds by the president. You can understand why people wouldn't want to represent him, but this seems like this is where you end up.
Well, the problem with the lawyering here is that, as I said, what they make is just so contrived. What they've done is really so contrived. Let me give you an example. They cite to the U.S. v. Nixon, right? A good place to go. And they cite to the quote in U.S. v. Nixon where it says that, you know,
I'm not a crook.
There's an importance to executive privilege, the confidentiality of presidential communications. The next sentence says, classified information, diplomatic issues are, of course, different. Criminal prosecutions are, of course, different. That's the next sentence. No lawyer worth his or her salt would ever cite one without the other. And of course, that's what this is about. This is not about the confidentiality of presidential communications. This is about the potential classified information. The current administration would like to know what classified information was in these boxes, was in that house, to which people had access or may have had access. That is a current, a terribly critical issue for the current administration, and nothing in U.S. v. Nixon says otherwise.
I have to say, watching all the legal minds sort of go through this and pick it apart, it's been like a real life stress nightmare, like a worst case scenario.
Right, an exam. I mean, I was going through it. I was going through it and saying minus. No, it's not. As I said, but Judge Reinhardt in particular, and every other magistrate judge in the country, has to feel, if this becomes the rule that you don't like what the magistrate judge is doing, you don't go back to him and ask him the very question, and then you pick the judge that you want to go to. Then the whole system begins to crumble.
All right, Nancy Gertner, as always, great to get your insight. Thank you very much.
So basically, let me turn this off. So basically, what they need to do is move this along. And I think what they need to do is Biden just needs to say, hey, I need to look at those documents because I need to see what I'm doing. He's currently in office, and he needs to see how those documents relate to the work he's doing. And he needs to have those documents in his possession. So this is crazy. More chaos from Trump. And another reason we can't afford to have this crazy man, doesn't know what he's doing. He's nothing but chaos and problems. We don't need him to ever be president again. Well, like and subscribe. Bye.